Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Poduty Live Podcast Theater. This is Poduty in the News. I'm your host, Jeff Revilla. I've got a great guest. We're going to be talking about 6 live stories about live podcasting. We're doing it live from the stage. Roy Coughlan, do you know what time it is?
It's time to have people sit on the chairs.
What time is it? What time is it? Oh, it's time for Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
Oh, the only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Roy Coughlan, the Podfather, podcast coach, officially. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for having me.
So glad to have you here. We've had some conversations in the past. I've been a guest on your show, had a great time, and kind of continue that conversation and seeing all the success that you've had in podcasting, the amount of shows that you've launched that have had success, the coaching that you're doing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Podfather and some of your coaching services?
So I'm podcasting for 8 years. I've got 8 podcasts at the moment. My coaching is kind of helping people that want to start or existing podcasters. I also help people do a podcast tour. Maybe they're an author and want to do their business. And I've got a school group as well because I'm kind of conscious of different levels. So the school group has courses that I've professionally recorded, as well as all the episodes. I do a live Q&A. And at the end of the day, I want people to stay in the game. I want them to get off the news, stop watching CNN, BBC, these channels, and start listening to podcasters and enjoy the conversations, whether they're doing it themselves.
That's the best way to do it. I mean, podcasting really is that connective medium where you get that intimate experience listening to somebody and sitting down in your car ride or while you're working out or walking around the block. You're hearing those stories and you're getting that firsthand experience. I think it's the best medium for connection.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, as well, is sometimes, there's loads of ways of listening to a podcast. I mean, if I'm cleaning the house or ironing, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm going to the gym, I'm listening to a podcast. I go for a walk, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm in the car, I drop the child off. My child doesn't want to listen to a podcast, but when I'm coming back, I'm listening to a podcast. And, by doing that, you're actually, arming yourself with knowledge for when you're recording yourself.
Yeah, and plus you're supporting smaller independent creators. You're supporting somebody who has maybe a home studio or a small theater space or a business owner in your community talking about their goods and services. That's who you're supporting. You're supporting friends and neighbors and people with families who support things in the community. So think about that just as a core concept of who do you want to be around in this world? Do you want to be with your friends and neighbors, or do you want to have these giant corporate conglomerates that are controlling a single narrative? It's up to you. But podcasting is a great way to support smaller, local, independent creators.
Absolutely.
If people want to connect with you, I know podfather.me, I believe, is the website. What's the best way if people want to get in touch with you, Roy?
I've got, it's my name, Roy Coughlan. That's COUGHLAN.com. All my stuff are there. My 8 podcasts. I've got a virtual assistance business. Everything is there. So, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So there could be something that's there now that I decide I don't like this anymore and I move it out, or something could be added. So roycoughlan.com, you'll find everything.
All right, I'll put that link in the show notes. There's a lot of tabs across the top. You will find something that interests you when you go to the site. Are you ready to get into our stories?
Absolutely.
We'll go to story number 1. Oh, we're going to the West Wing. Our first story today, the reunion becomes the live event. This comes from the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. 20 years after The West Wing ended, fans are still showing up. Martin Sheen and Dule Hill reunited live at C2E2 on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. And it wasn't just a conversation, it was an event. They shared stories, revisited iconic episodes, and reminded everyone why the show still matters. This is what live podcasting looks like when you tap into something people already care about. You're not building from scratch. You're activating an audience that's been waiting for a reason to come back together. And one of the things I really liked about the story is just showing podcasters that if you have some interest in some sort of nostalgia, you don't have to be Martin Sheen or Dule Hill. You can just be a fan of these shows, and people show up. That's a reason to put a podcast on. If you're passionate about a show or a movie, and that's the topic of your show, people showed up to come see this and talk about one of their favorite shows.
And the thing as well is with a show, like sometimes people think that they have to be a specialist to be the host. I've had one, the crypto, and I'm not. I'm basically asking all the questions. And I assumed it'd be all beginners that would come in. And it's experienced crypto people, because of my curiosity, who are actually liking the questions that I'm doing. So you just don't think that you have to be a specialist in the field to do a show as well.
Yeah, people come together around common interests, and you figure out what you're interested in the most. What are you passionate about? And we guarantee you, there's people out there who are also interested in the same things. You may not find them exactly in your backyard, but around the world, people will share your same interests, and they'll want to hear your perspective on it. Everybody brings a different perspective. There could be 5 or 6 West Wing shows, and each one, I guarantee you, is different than the next.
And like there's one I have is the Polish one, and most people, they teach a language. They spend an hour and they do grammar, and people yawn and get bored. And what I wanted it fast, 5-10 minutes, and talk about stuff that you need when you're in a foreign country. Like if you go to the dentist, all the different things you need to do: get your teeth filling, get something taken out. If you go to a car, get your tires done, all these different things. And because I've done it in a way that gets you entertained and engaged, it's got millions. It's something like 4 million combined between the audio and the video. Imagine an Irish guy teaching people Polish. I'm the student and I have the teacher. But you can get very creative. Don't think just because everybody's doing it that way. You can do something different. I mean, I did a picture for that show. I set up a tripod and I took a picture, crappy picture. And it was number 1. It was ahead of Duolingo, ahead of BBC Language, ahead of a load of things. I eventually, kind of done a professional thing. But so sometimes you might think something's not going to take off, and it can. But you can get very creative when you're doing something.
Yeah, and that's a great example. Not native to the country, teaching about the country. It's a great way to help outsiders feel inclusive, and I really like that concept. Well, let's go to story number 2. This one's kind of blending old media with new media. This comes to us from Podcast News Daily, and radio isn't dying, it's evolving. Ozen.fm just launched podcastbot.ai, a tool that turns live radio into on-demand podcasts automatically. It records broadcasts, pulls out interviews, cleans up the audio, and publishes episodes in minutes. This is a big shift. Broadcasters aren't creating more content, they're getting more mileage of what they already have. And it reinforces a key idea for podcasters: growth comes from distribution. The more places your content lives, the more opportunities you have to be discovered and monetized.
There's a thing as well, like when people see that, I hear a lot of times, I'm not sure about yourself, they think, the market is saturated, there's over 4 million shows. When you look at it, there was over 4 million podcasts. In the last 30 days, it's less than 400,000 that's active. That's not a saturated market. That's tiny. So don't think that, hey, I've missed the boat on this, that it's going to be too late. But that's brilliant what they're doing there. I think it's fantastic, because there's even channels that I listen to, like Cork Red FM. And yeah, you're trying to find stuff. But if I knew, hey, this is converted onto a podcast, now I can go in. And when I know there's a certain topic, I can go in and watch it. That I would be subscribing to radio stations from that.
Yeah, I can just think how many times I wanted to listen to a radio station in the morning, but maybe I had that dentist appointment you were talking about earlier, or I had a doctor's appointment. I had to miss that one segment. Well, now you don't have to worry about missing that one segment you waited all morning for through 2 hours of commercials, and then you had to step out of your car. Now that episode it could be recorded for you, cleaned up and enhanced, and then you can catch it, on your lunch break or on your ride home, which I really love having that feature. That was never an option before for traditional radio to go back and listen. And now you have that opportunity to rewind live radio.
And the thing is, as well, is because a lot of people, when you create a show, they think, oh, I have to spend so much time putting it on iHeartRadio, I have to put it on Spotify, Apple. When you have an RSS feed, because not everyone knows that, you get your unique kind of code. Once you set it up, you release an episode, it just does its magic. I have things going to Amazon, Pandora, everywhere. I don't even think about it. I've even got then my pod page that once it goes to that, it's automatically releasing the episodes from that. So if I have a graphic and everything, that's going out to X, it's going on to LinkedIn. You can systemize everything. So sometimes people think, oh, this is going to take too long. Like a couple of weeks ago, I got 22 episodes out. And I'm sure, Jeff, that you've heard so many people go, oh, I don't have time for one. It's not about that. It's just systemizing everything. And when you systemize it, then it's not painful. And I know we've even been discussing ourselves, like how you're going doing stuff. And that's the secret, because otherwise it becomes a chore. And you want to have it that it's a passion and not a chore.
Yeah, and I love this idea of expanding reach. You think about local radio, it's only broadcasting, 20, 30 miles around a city. But through this ability to record and download, if you're maybe homesick or you're traveling or you want to hear, what are they talking about in California or Istanbul, now you can download and extract and hear all these stations from around the world whenever you want. You don't just tune in when it's live. You can go back, rewind, and hear morning segments from New York or Florida or Cuba, probably, I'm sure. You can hear all these different perspectives whenever you're available.
Yeah.
We'll go to story number 3, keeping it moving. We're going to the RSA conference. This is from a book to a stage to authority, which I love this idea of you're creating one piece of content that lives on. In this example, we're talking 5 years later, and Nicole Perlroth wrote a best-selling book about cyber warfare back in 2021. And 5 years later, she's still on stage talking about it at major conferences like RSA. But now the story has evolved. She's not just reporting on cyber, she's helping shape where it's going. This is what smart creators do. One piece of content becomes a platform. It turns into interviews, live events, and ongoing conversations. For podcasters, this is the play. Your show is not just content, it's your entry point to bigger rooms and bigger opportunities.
And like what you can do with the content that you have from interviews, you can use AI to do it, but you can to extract the transcripts and then create a book from that. I mean, with the books, get you on stage, and then obviously you can create short content as well and post that everywhere. And like we've got a bit creative with the way we do it, because a lot of times the social media platforms don't want you to move from one platform to the next. So what we do is we have either my website or some of the clients that we use a QR code. So when it's posted, you're not putting the link, because Facebook doesn't want you to, go to LinkedIn, and they all want to keep you on that place. So you can actually, get a bit creative as well and have your details in the short. So the short become from the podcast, and there's a lot that can be done. And the thing is, my best episode on the Polish one is episode number 1. It just keeps churning away, and most of it's evergreen. And that's the thing, like you've done it once and you put it out there, and sometimes you can re-release it, you can reshare. Sometimes people think I'll share it once and that's it. You can share it again 2 months later. You can reshare it. What I've done is I've actually started creating new thumbnails based on the AI that I'm able to do, and it looks way better. Before I put up a picture, I mean, it's like you could put up a picture of me. Nobody, who cares about me? But if you put up a picture that's a graphic, that's connected with what we're talking about, that grabs people's attention. And even if it was a picture of me, and then 3 months later you're putting up a graphic, you could actually get 10 times more people look at it based on that. And then you can analyze things as well and say, what's working?
You get all that immersed when you go to these conferences too. So if you're creating content and you're going to the places that are talking about, like the RSA conference, talking about cybersecurity, and there's authors there, I think that's very important for podcasters to figure out that when you go to these conferences now in 2026, whereas we'll rewind, like 20 years ago, podcasters would sneak in with media passes. That was kind of the play for podcasters. Go to a conference, get a media pass, and go around and interview everybody to get content for your podcast. But as podcasting has evolved, and this is where I think podcasters should really be thinking, there are these conferences, there are these events that you can plug into. Conferences are now using podcasters as the entertainment for their stage. And before they used to have magicians and musicians and comedians try to fill the time in between speaking gigs. Now they're putting panels of podcasters up on stage, and you're getting content from the main stage, which boosts that credibility, which makes you a thought leader in that industry. So, how do you take your show to where your audience already is, and build all those assets that Roy's talking about? Like, how do you put all that together? Here's a great strategy to do it all in one place.
And another thing that I've seen people do as well, if you're not going to be on the stage, you're just kind of walking around trying to connect with people, is they have the QR code on their T-shirt. And people just out of curiosity. And if they know you, hey, they'll probably check your socials and stuff like that. And they go, hey, I'd like to be on your show. And with the way technology's got, before you couldn't really do that. But now you can have if you go into a certain room, you can have a 10, 15 minute with, somebody that you would never get on your show. So it's well worth it having the gear with you as well.
Yeah, the networking is unbelievable at a conference because you're going to where everybody in your industry is already attending. You can make those connections, and even down the road, months down the road, have guests booked just from that single appearance at that conference. So use those QR codes, use those business cards, make those connections to fill up your show for a couple months. We'll go to story number 4. I was telling Roy about my situation here, and the reason I play the theme song is so that I can run to the stage after I hit record. And so this studio here, they're doing something a little bit different. Now, there's a significant investment to do what they're talking about here, but you don't need a crew to go live. Like it's just me in the theater by myself, and Roy's virtually from Poland, and we're just hanging out doing a show. But here is an example of somebody who built a home studio without a crew. Everything's hands-free once they go live, and this comes to us from the PSS Creative Media. If you've ever thought you needed a full production crew to run a live podcast, you don't. This setup uses Riverside and the Rodecaster video to automate everything from camera switching to streaming. The system listens to who's talking and cuts to the right camera in real time. This means you can focus on the conversation, not the tech. This is exactly how live podcasting grows. When the barrier to entry drops, more creators can step on stage, hit to go live, and start building an audience.
Yeah, and there's so much live streaming tools as well. We've used StreamYard. We do live shows that I was doing for a couple of years, and you get very comfortable doing it. It's sometimes people think that they'd be nervous and everything. It's strange, but you just get so used to it. It's okay. And regarding kind of building your own kind of say home studio and everything, like when I moved to this place, it was just before the craziness happened in 2020, and I had a room picked out in the house, and I said, I'm going to have a great studio here and everything. And once the car started kind of moving again, I was like, okay, this isn't good. So I'm kind of in the middle of the house, but I constantly evolve with lighting, with sound. I've used Restream. So what happens is when you're in the space, it's okay if you're making mistakes and you're learning. But what will happen is you get the likes of Jeff coming on your show, and he'd be telling you what he's doing. You go, oh, that's good. He'll sell you some technology, some buttons. You can do this. And if you keep learning the whole way, it's okay that you're just starting in something and you realize, okay, I got a camera. Like if you see behind me, that's a green screen. Normally I'm doing my stuff on Zoom, and I can actually, I have like my advertisement as such on it. So so you can just get as creative as you want. And as you say, like the cameras, and there's courses that you can do. You can go online and YouTube that will tell you how to do things. So sometimes people think I need to spend hundreds of thousands to do this. You can do it on a shoestring budget. And even if you can get a ring light and then later get something else like an LED square light, just keep developing. I see like even from when you were on my show, like the way that you've created that studio, like I remember you telling me how you were getting the chairs and all that. It's fantastic. You've done it brilliantly and it looks incredible.
Yeah, people always ask me, like, well, how do you get started? I'm like, you can get started with what you already have. I guarantee you have enough equipment to start doing a live stream now, to start recording a podcast now. You don't need to start with a huge investment. You can start with what you already have. And like Roy says, you don't need all that fancy equipment to get started. You want to do it. I mean, I think getting the systems that you mentioned, that's an important part of podcasting. How do you repeat this week after week? But getting started and developing a skill, learning how to be on a microphone, learning how to entertain people, learning how to be in front of an audience, learning how to host a guest, those things are skills you'll develop over time, over 20, 50, 100 episodes. And as you do that, guess what? Your podcasting skills also improve. Your editing skills improve. Your recording skills improve. The whole show grows with you, especially on your first show, your first attempt. Start small and grow from where you're already at. But getting that momentum going, getting those systems in place, I think, just like Roy said, that's way more important than all the tech that you need to use. You can correct most things now with AI and through free tools online. There's enough to fix your sound. But just get started and get that momentum and get those systems down first.
And what I would actually recommend people do as well is go on a podcast tour and start, because you'll start seeing other people's forms. You'll see how they're doing it. Everyone is generous with how they do it. They'll tell you what they're doing. And the other thing that's very important is when you're on a show, people will ask you different questions. And then you realize you had a story buried deep in your mind that it's like, oh, this is an interesting story that you can then bring to your own show and make sure you kind of develop it a bit. So there's a great advantage of doing a tour as well.
Yeah, you can learn so much. I even tell people how I built this theater. So if you ever want to know, like I'll tell you, this thing was a shoestring budget. I put this all together. You mentioned the chairs. You know, I bought chairs from a Catholic school that was closing, and I made them an offer. I thought 100 chairs at $2 a chair would be great because these are like $40 chairs. And they instantly accepted the offer. So I went in too high. I could have even got them for $1, but it did go to charity. So I was excited to be able to acquire the chairs and make a donation. But you can do things on a shoestring budget. Trust me, in this country, there's enough consumerism that somebody has already bought the things you need, and they're probably willing to unload them dirt cheap. So, think secondhand. Don't think brand new right away. Build those skills and build your tech stack as you get better and better at it.
And you don't need to be technical as well, because like say with the mic, you can get a decent enough mic for about $50, but maybe 100 to 200, and you can plug it a USB into your computer. You don't need to be technical. A lot of people think I need to be really technical. It is so easy to do. It's simple.
$50. Get a Logitech webcam. It's like $100, and maybe a ring light for $20, and all in, you're like around 150, and you can start a show, and you probably have half of that in your house already.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, here I love this next story. Very meta. This is a TV show doing a show that's a live podcast within the show. So, of course, I gravitated towards this one. This is from the A&E YouTube channel for the Duck Dynasty revival, and we're going to talk about when a live podcast becomes the show. Very meta, especially for what we're doing this morning, Roy. Live podcasting just made it onto reality TV. In Duck Dynasty, the revival, Sadie Robertson hosts her first live podcast with Thomas Rhett, and of course, things don't go as planned, but that's the point. The live element creates tension, unpredictability, and moments you can't script. This is where live podcasting wins. It's not just about the conversation anymore, it's about the experience. When things go off the rails, that's what people remember, and that's what makes it worth showing up for. There's a whole spontaneous element to this, and that's what I love about podcasting. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I grew up skateboarding. I grew up punk rock. So like that idea of chaos, but controlling the chaos and not knowing what's around the corner or what the next adventure is, that's part of performing live. You have no idea sometimes how the audience will react. You have no idea if you're going to be a guest on a show, what the next question's going to be, or where the conversation's going to meander to. And that's the beauty of live. It's the experience. And as long as you immerse yourself in it, you're going to have a good time.
And I think some people watch the live shows because they want something to go wrong. They want someone's phone to ring. They want to see how people react. They want somebody in the audience to get aggravated and kind of throw a question. And by doing that, and when it's live, it attracts more listeners.
Yeah, you have no idea, and sometimes it does go off the rails. And like you're saying, that is part of the show, and that's what people turn into. They want to see that train wreck, and they want to see what happens when things go off the rails, and you just don't know. And that keeps you on the edge of the seat. That keeps the show interesting. That keeps you moving along. To our last story already, we're going to 414 Day. This comes to us from the Recombobulation area. The Recombobulation Area isn't just hosting a live podcast. They're attaching it to Milwaukee Day, a citywide celebration. The event is free, packed with local voices, and layered with incentives like subscription discounts and giveaways. This is the play. Your live podcast should not exist in a vacuum. It should plug into something people already care about. When you combine community, timing, and shared reasons to gather, the podcast becomes the centerpiece of the experience. I think we kind of touched on this one a couple times, but this is, if you're in Milwaukee, you're doing a Milwaukee show, and they're doing a celebration to celebrate Milwaukee, guess where your podcast should be? It should be in the heart of that celebration for your city, and you should become the face. You should become part of that entertainment, celebrating your love of Milwaukee, the local sports towns, restaurants, all the things that make Milwaukee unique that you talk about. This is where you belong.
Oh, it's a fantastic incentive. And even what you're doing, I mean, like, I would love if there was something like that there, because it's a totally new experience, and you're kind of testing yourself as well, because you're going in the studio. I mean, I went, and this is something as well that I find with a lot of, say, podcasts. Some of them are shy. I was extremely shy, and I kind of made a decision kind of in my mid-40s to kind of join Toastmasters and then join another club. I formed my own club, but I kind of transformed, and I told myself, all right, I'm no longer this shy person, because I told myself that's who I am. And I think a lot of people might think, I can't do my face, I can't do this, I can't. It's like, if you have a message that's going to make an impact in the world, there's a lot of craziness going on. If you can make the world a better place, if you don't need to be getting 1 million downloads. If you got one person that was listening, you've just changed their life based on your knowledge. You should do that. And I love these kind of live events and everything, because, like, I think people, when you've got the human touch, it's brilliant. Yeah, I can, as I said earlier, I know if I'm at the gym or something listening to some, but if I'm there, you're kind of touching into there's a connection with humans as well when they're doing the live event. So I'm hoping that this expands to every city in the world, because it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, even if you only meet 10 people and you shake 10 hands and you get to share stories with 10 people, that impact is exponentially better than 100 downloads, 1,000 downloads of your podcast. You've made 10 new connections. They're going to tell other people about it. They're going to be your biggest fans going forward, because they have a connection with you on such a deeper level than just hearing you when they download your show once a week. They're going to tune in every week. You may even mention them, like, oh, I met some great people at 414 Day. I had a fun Bobby. He was a great guy. I had a good time. We talked about the scones from that Harvest Moon coffee shop down the street. And you start tying all these stories and tying all these connections in, you become the center of Milwaukee. People want to hang around with you. You're the expert. You're the reason why they tune in. You know where to get the best corned beef, where to get all my references are food apparently, but you are the face of that city when you develop something like this type of concept. Go there, support them, and be part of the community. And that is going to wrap it up for this Poduty in the News. I do one last thing. I turn the floor over to Roy one last time. Plug, promote, talk about anything you'd like, Roy. The floor is yours.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, if you're watching this, can you comment, give a thumbs up, because what Jeff is doing is fantastic. I've had him on my show, and I want more people to actually go to the theatre, subscribe. So please do that. If you're on any of the platforms where it's released, 5-star, it's easy to do. And Apple as well, give a review, so that'll help. With me, everything that I'm doing, all the podcasts, go to roycoughlan.com. I now have called the Podcast Network. So what I'm trying to do is help the small boy to do the sponsorship, because a lot of these companies, they're taking 90% of the money. So I'm putting something together that they're kind of working with me. I'm talking to the sponsors and I can dynamically place it. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And the podfather.me. If you're interested in starting a podcast or you're an existing podcaster, I've had incredible interviews, including with Jeff. Every single person brings something good to the table. So be sure to check it out. Thanks, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All those links will be in the show notes. We'll have a special page dedicated to Roy too, so we'll keep updates there. Any future shows, I'd love to have Roy back on. Come on back anytime. You're always welcome. But do you remember what time it is?
It's time for everybody to sit in your chairs and fill the audience.
What time is it?